Alright, for today's video, we gotta talk about the most recent leaks for honkaistarrail. So, remember when people joked Cyrene was a Castorus bot? Well, congratulations, she's now officially a Mydei support. Yeah, version 4 Cyrene basically turned into a Mydei bot, and the best one he's ever had. But don't get it twisted. She's not just locked to him. This patch hasn't changed much but confirm her current role, a unit made for hsrbaners. Today, we're diving into Cyrene's full V4 leak breakdown, what changed, who benefits, and why she might secretly be the biggest winner of this beta. Cyrene's version 3 kit was already absurdly dense, a full encyclopedia of memesprite effects. If you're new or forgot the wall of text, here's the simple version. Cyrene's a 5-star ice unit on the path of remembrance. Like other remembrance characters, she summons a memesprite, a companion whose HP scales off her own. Her skill deploys a zone that adds true damage equal to 24% of any ally's attack whenever they deal damage. The zone lasts 2 turns or indefinitely after her ultimate. Her talent, Hearts Gather as One, makes allies consume a buff called Future to feed her recollection points. At 24 recollection, she can trigger her ultimate. At 12 while transformed, she can do it again. Her ultimate, Verse Vow Infinity, is a once-per-battle event. She summons her memesprite, gives it an immediate extra turn, and instantly triggers every ally's ultimate. Then she enters Ripples of Past Reverie, a state that locks her into an enhanced basic attack called To Love and Tomorrow, boosts crit rate for both her and the memesprite by 50%, and gives a permanent version of her zone. Cyrene's real power isn't her personal damage, it's how her ode skills supercharge specific characters, the other hsrbaners. Let's go down the list and highlight what matters and what changed. Mydei's Ode to Strife removes CC debuffs, and if Mydei is in Vendetta, lets him fire off Godslayer be God for free. Crit damage buff skyrocketed from 80% to 200% during that attack. If he's not in Vendetta, he gets 100% action advance. This is the big one. It pushes Mydei's damage far beyond what his current team can provide, but adds the need to run Hysilens. With her sustain and Cyrene's 24% team damage zone, Mydei becomes a crit monster. Cyrene is now best in slot for Mydei teams, but needs Hysilens specifically to enable the team. Castorus's Ode to Life and Death buffs, Newbud, overflow to 200%. Converts that overflow into bonus damage when summoning Netherwing. Extra boost when fewer than 3 enemies are on the field. No direct changes in V4, but this remains one of Cyrene's strongest links. Castorus's Quantum Burst thrives on HP scaling, and Cyrene both buffs and mirrors that scaling via her zone, still top-tier synergy. Competitive with Tribi for premium Castorus comps. Everknight's Ode to Time boosts her memesprite skill damage by 18%. Adds stacking crit damage scaling per Everknight's own crit damage. This one furthers Everknight's strengths. Every skill and ultimate stacks Memoria, and with Cyrene on the field, Everknight's multipliers start exploding. Community consensus says this was the biggest relative buff of the patch. Everknight main DPS comps are now op-tier. Hysilens' Ode to Sky grants 2 stacks of Ode to Sky when the memesprite acts. Each stack amplifies Hysilens' healing and funnels extra healing into Little Ika's sprite. Energy regen added, 24 energy on use. No numerical change this patch, but the community's calling her the linchpin of every good Cyrene team. Without Hysilens' speed and memesprite actions, Cyrene's ramp-up takes a dozen cycles, and since both are HP scalers on Remembrance, they slot together naturally on mono Remembrance teams. Verdict, mandatory partner. Tribi's Ode to Passage grants defense ignore 12% and extra additional damage procs from Tribi's zone follow-ups. Not really that good, it's actually best to send Tribi to other team. Annex's Ode to Reason grants +1 SB, instant action, and true knowledge, which buffs erudition ATK by 60% and skill damage by 40%. No changes, but it still is a good buff for him. Good pairing, Hysilens also becomes a must to enable this comp. Hysilens' Ode to Ocean damage buff increased from 100% to 120%. Do TS detonate instantly for 60–80% of their original value. That's a good buff for Do T setups. Pairing Cyrene plus hysilens plus Kafka turns fights into chain explosions. Do T variant Cyrene comps look a bit stronger post-buff, probably best in slot. Danheng's Ode to Earth Bond Mate buff damage, 16% 24%. Adds 100% action advance for his dragon summon, letting him chain enhance without consuming charge. Another small upgrade. Still shouldn't be a reason to pair them unless the rest of the team gets better Cyrene buffs. The other odes stay unchanged, but they're still synergies. Cyreneguide gets plus 30% crit damage for the military merit unit. This buff in turn strengthens the DPS Cyreneguide buffs, pretty decent buff. Feinon gets crit stacking and fire additional damage. This team is still weird, replacing Feinon's ramp-up with Cyrene's own ramp-up while changing half the team for a side grade doesn't sound good at all. Aglia gets romantic for massive ATK and energy regen. She's also one of the units that gets a side grade to her best team with Cyrene. You'll have to run them with Hyacine and RMC though. Cypher gets plus 36% damage dealt and party-wide defense shred. Good buff to stack defense shred, but not crazy either. Alright, let's rank this in plain terms for the meta. Evernight main DPS teams got the biggest boost overall. The Evernight Cyrene Hyacine RMC team hits absurd scaling thanks to crit stacking, healing feedback, and zone true damage. Castoris Premium, still her best overall team. It's hyper consistent, and Cyrene's V4 buffs don't break that, they just make Mydei more tempting to build. Mydei teams, the breakout star of this patch. Between plus 200% crit damage and guaranteed free Godslayer shots, he finally feels like the bruiser he was meant to be. Cyrene and Hyacine together practically rebuild his playstyle. Anaxa or Aglia setups, competitive but not peak. You'd need Etwo or higher for Cyrene to feel a big upgrade on these teams. Do T with Hysilens, much stronger. More detonation on Do TS hitting is no joke. Now, about her playstyle. Cyrene needs SPD 180 plus for her Causality and Trichotomy passive. That grants a 20% team-wide damage boost and up to 60% Ice RES pen scaling. For optimal rotation, run her at 100 and 80-200 SBD baseline. Hyacine should trail at 200 for sustain and help Cyrene's ramp up. Stack HP % / crit rate / crit damage on relics. Over on Reddit, the reaction was not good, to say the least. Players were expecting her to be a universal support Robin power creep. Instead, we get a Cyreneguide situation, and doom posting is at an all-time high. A big issue for the players is the fact that her Etwo fixes her ramp-up issue and makes her a straight upgrade to Chiaso's air teams and even playable in other teams. Designing her kit with such an obvious flaw and locking the solution to Etwo does feel scummy. Mydei mains are winning though. Some even say that plus 200% crit damage is overkill in a good way. The main takeaway, Hoyo doesn't seem to want to speed up her ramp time on non-mono remembrance teams. My take. I think version 4 Cyrene is in a healthy but niche spot. And it's not a good spot to be when 4 and Elation meta is just around the corner. Pull her if you are a Mydei main or want to run her on Evernight main DPS. For Castoris, it's a Tribby question, does your other team need Tribby? If so, get Cyrene, if not, you can skip her without losing much. So, are you pulling for Cyrene or sticking with Tribby and calling it a day? Let me know down below. And if you want to stay updated on every Honkai, Starrail leak, buffs, and meta shifts, don't forget to like and subscribe.